Hey there, everybody. Welcome back with the Purplatypus is the name, and today we're going to be talking budget tickle fight. This is still a team I'm working on. This isn't the exact team, but I'm basically going to try to beat the fight with all 4 stars, or under. You know, maybe there's a 3-star that's good enough to use. But today's video is about what are some of the best 4-star budget units you could use for this fight. Now, I do say budget, but do keep in mind this comes with the asterisks that they do want to be 4 out of 4 stars, not 3.5 stars. Level 60 probably isn't going to get you there. You probably want to be level 70, and ideally you want to get them up to like 75. Level 80 is a little difficult for anyone at this point, but level 70-ish is probably where you're going to want them to be. Anyway, we're going to jump into it. I'm going to give you I've just put the characters on the screen in case you don't want to watch the video. It's obviously Lynette and Sophia, best 4 stars. No, but I put them here on the screen just so you can see the units that I've been looking at, if you don't want to watch the video. But if you want to hear my reasoning why, this is the top 4 kind of units you should use. And I'm actually going to go in order of, you know, the first 3 are tied, and the 4th one is not quite tied, but we're just going to go in the order I have them here then. Camilla is number 1. If you're not using Camilla on your tickle team, I highly recommend you figure out why. Now, the only reason I wouldn't use Camilla is if I have both Hannah and Scarecrow 5-star, and I have both of them at a high level. Then you might not need Camilla, but even then, I swear to God, I just hit the button. Even then, I would probably still have her fill out another slot because I think she's one of the best units in the game right now for this specific fight, which is one thing I love about, I guess, gacha, or at least things like this, right? Is like there are always specific fights that some characters are great at, right? Because all 3 of the enemies you're going to be fighting are weak to bow. Oh, I'm in formation. That's my bad. So what does she have? She has the most important ability of all. The only reason you bring her, and the reason she's so good for this fight: deal physical bow damage to all foes 2 times. So in the first like 8 rounds, she's going to be breaking like 16 shields, right? Probably 14 shields. You might take a turn off because of the physical counter stance, but she's going to be breaking shields like crazy. Every time she uses an attack and they're all 3 up, she's breaking 6 shields. This is very, 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 very good. Obviously, it's a bad version of Scarecrow, but a bad version of... So Scarecrow might be literally the best damage unit in the entire game for this fight. If you're just like the second or third best in the entire game, you earn a spot in an 8-man team, you know? Very good. You definitely should be using Camilla on almost any team setup you have, in my opinion. Obviously, very good. She does have some passives also that are like not irrelevant, right? In the back row, she grants the front automatic HP recovery. The issue is you want her in the front almost always for this fight. She does raise the bow damage of paired allies, so I think you could pair her with... You don't want to pair her with someone like Scarecrow. You want to pair her with someone like Ashland, who's coming up second, where Ashland is not a very good shield breaker because he doesn't have any, like, he has like 1 multi-hit, and it's random, so you don't typically want to, and it's 1 foe randomly 2 times, so it's not nearly as good for that kind of stuff. He's a good single damage nuker. So you could put her like behind someone like Ashland or something, but overall her passes aren't really there. It's really this flurry of arrows that sets her apart in this fight. Number 2 is Ashland. Ashland has been like... So Wingate was the original goated 4-star for me, where I just use Wingate in every team. Ashland is probably past Wingate in my mental tier list of a unit that I just kind of always want. Now, Wingate does have more general purpose use, as he could always break shields. He could always slow the enemy down. He's just always... I mean, even Kless might be better than Wingate at this point with his double break, but regardless... Ashland might be my favorite 4-star in the game. If you watch my content, Ashland typically gets the last hit because he hits like a truck. For a level 70 unit, this guy really punches above his weight class, I think. But why is he good in this fight? One, he's one of our best damage dealers when they're broken to actually get in for some damage. But more importantly than that even is at the final stage of the fight, like when you're down, when you've killed both ads and you're down to like, she's got like 40% HP. TIKILEN is gonna, no, it's not TIKILEN. Tickle, of course, is going to be, she's going to put on a shield. She's going to reduce her shields or increase her shields, depending on where she's at, up to 7. And then you can only break her shields with critical hits. So what's very frustrating is like you can't even do a critical hit of like sword, right? It has to be something she's weak that you could normally break the shield, and it has to be a crit. So you're stuck with light, which I don't even know can crit, fan, and bow. And Ashland here does happen to have 2 attacks that are guaranteed critical hits. So you would have to use this attack 7 times to fully break it. But the thing is, there's not many other characters in the game that can guarantee a crit. Even if you do a 4x bow attack on the average character, they're going to miss all 4. This is a guaranteed, you just smack them with a crit every turn. This is kind of like a buffer almost to help make sure that you get that 7 hits, because that's like a fuck you part of the fight. It's definitely the hardest part of the fight for me, to not get completely owned right then. But also Ashland, other than being a great damage dealer, other than having the guaranteed crits for the hardest part of the fight, he also has this passive take aim, so he could raise the critical of your entire front row by 15%. It's not huge, but that is the kind of thing where you need to land crits. This is like the time that this ability is good, right? And he does also raise the critical damage of both rows, which is nice. And then if you can manage to get him near death and then not heal him, which is difficult to do, he does give everybody guaranteed critical hits. So if you can manage to get Ashland down to like 500 HP, I think that would probably be in the threshold. Then you instantly destroy the fight. That's a pretty cool ability. The issue is it's kind of tough to do. In the back row, you're automatically healing every turn. In the front row, you're gonna have, I had Theo healing me in the next character, so it's like, it's very difficult to get off, but obviously it's overpowered when it does. Ashland, MVP of the fight for sure, and honestly one of the MVPs of the game so far. Next, we have Meno, and this is a character that's a little bit different in terms of why they're really good. There's 2 main reasons. I would even say 3 reasons. You know what? I'll say 6 reasons. I'll keep raising it up, build that hype. So Meno has a couple incredibly powerful things going for them. I actually like this melodic sea breeze on basically every fight in the game, even if it doesn't deal damage. Just lowering speed of enemies is kind of nice, but that's really not why you're bringing Meno into the fight. Meno has a wonderful AoE heal right here. So restore HP up front by 40. It's kind of low, but also grant automatic HP recovery of a potency at 70. So this is like a bad Theo. You might need a backup healer if you're using this unit instead of Theo, but this is a very powerful heal. It does both, Millard heals good. It does a lot of healing because he heals it all up front, and so he could heal reactively. Theo is a good healer because he could heal proactively. This is both a proactive and reactive heal, but they both take a hit because of that. But it means the heal is always good. Either you're extending the duration of the HP recovery to proactively heal, or someone needs some HP and you're still getting some of that HP on there as well. So Medicine all is very good, and you definitely need a healer of some kind, and I think that this is one of the better heals in the game for it. But maybe even more importantly than this, we're actually going to the passives. Is it the first one? When in back row, raise wind resistance of front row by 15. I assume this is 15%. Not 15 points, because what does that mean? It's got to be 15%. That is pretty darn insane. This is the only character in the game that, while in the back row, completely buffs the front row with a resistance that's not only good, but like 100% necessary. You're running Theo in this fight a lot of times because his AoE heal also happens to give wind resist. What are the odds that they had a step up at the same time leading up to the fight? But Meno is a great healer. It's just, and then when you don't need to heal, you know, you get your Medica, whatever, you get everyone healing every single turn on the front row, so they don't need to switch out constantly. Then he just sits in the back row and buffs the entire front row. I assume this stacks with Theo. So if you have him and Theo, you could like, he could sit in the back row and do nothing the entire fight. Just sit behind like a Gilderoy or something. Do nothing the entire fight, just buff the entire front row. Like this has got to be the only unit that never needs to go to the front row to be incredibly powerful in the Tickle fight here. Very, very, I would argue potentially OP ability. I didn't use Meno in my first few fights in my attempts, but I'm thinking that I might switch Meno out. The issue is I'm a bit of a dolphin / whale in this game, and so it's hard to find a unit that's worth switching out for this specific ability. However, I still think even on my account that this unit is probably worth just straight up using because that's so powerful. And then finally, number 4 is going to be a tie between two characters because they are so similar in how they operate in this fight, and this is going to be Iris and Lucetta. I could see arguments for both of them. Iris has got a bit more utility in terms of, right, the lion dance. You can part with physical attack up 15% on turns where you're not using them. But basically the main reason, well, let's take a look at the passives here. I actually forgot her passives really quick. Impart self with who gives a shit, and at full HP raise damage of self by 20%. So she actually does put out some pretty good damage. But basically it's the wild blow here, right? Deal physical fan damage to a random foe 3 times, and Lucetta here has the triple sturdy shot. It does it to a single foe 3 times. So this is arguably better, and I do think Lucetta is better, but they're both pretty similar. These are characters that I'm typically going to be switching in when you get down to Tickle being alone, and it's just you versus her, basically. And so the wild hit doesn't really matter that much at that point. And it could be worth running both these units as well, because you really want to be able to break her shields very quickly, because she has like this ultimate attack that does a ton of wind damage. And if you're able to break on that turn, then it like resets, and then they don't use it for like 4 or 5 turns. But they've got 25 shields, so it's a very long time. So they both do ice damage, which is kind of irrelevant. The advantage here of Lucetta is that they have AoE, and they get a part physical defense down for 2 turns. And their triple sturdy shot hits 3 times. So overall, I even though I put these as paired, I do think Lucetta is a bit better, but I think that like they're both reasonable to use for sure. And they have the cool passive of extend duration of front or back row augmenting effects by 1 turn. Does not stack. This actually seems extend the duration of front and back rows augmenting effects. So would this make the Lynette dance last 2 turns? And that means if you switch Lynette out every turn, that you could keep extending the duration. I think that this might be pretty sick. I didn't think about that passive. I'm actually just gonna put Lucette above Iris now. Sorry, Iris. I do think they're both reasonable to run, but yeah, I think I've convinced myself over the course of this video that Lucetta is just better. But again, both very good fights. Outside of that, I'm looking at some other units that aren't super impressive right now. Like Bertrand sounds like it'd be perfect because he does both lightning and bow, but the issue is he doesn't have like, he does have wild shot, which is good late in the fight, and his AoE lightning is like what, but his AoE lightning is kind of crap. It's all foes 1 time and it lowers their lightning resist. I mean, lowering light resist by 20% is cool, but Tilkin isn't weak to lightning. The front 2 are, so it's not like that good. And you're not bringing that much lightning into the fight anyway. And then a random foe 3 times is just a little bit worse than Lucetta's, right? So I'm like, why would I run them both? But maybe he has this sick ass passive. Start a battle, lower lightning resist. I mean, if you're going heavy lightning, that could be cool. Front and back row immunity to paralysis. Yeah, he does have the wind resistance, which is nice, double wind resistance, but there's not much going on his kit that I'm like, oh, this stands out as being a wonderful character. This is one of those characters you use if you don't have any 5 stars and you're really trying to, like, I might use them in a full 4-star team, something like that. But not super impressed with the unit right now. Anyway, that's going to be it, guys. Thank you so much. Purplatypus is Purplatypus. Let me know if there's any sleepers in the 4 or 3-star that I did not mention here. We might be able to do a follow-up video if we get enough. If not, doesn't matter. Anyway, much love. Purplatypus is Purplatypus. See you in the next video. Peace.